Well, good evening, District 7, and welcome to another episode of the PRM Forum. I am Fred Bergeron, the Public Relations Manager, and I have a very special guest with me. He's actually one of the co-sponsors of Podmasters that we're chartering here in District 7. He's very well versed in Zoom, and I believe he's also the Zoom master for District 96. His name is Ray Miller, and he's going to teach us what I like to call hidden secrets of Zoom. We all know how to screen share and mute and unmute ourselves. He's going to show us some of those things that maybe we may or may not know. So please welcome my friend from District 96, Ray Miller. Welcome, Ray.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Fred. I do know a lot about Zoom, and the reason I know a lot about Zoom is because of COVID. And if you recall, in 2020, we all started meeting online, and all of us had to learn how to speak in the Zoom space and talk to the camera. What this did is it helped me transition the District 96, which is where I live, into an in-person conference into an online conference, which I also meant I got to learn a lot about Zoom very quickly. I wouldn't have been an expert before that. But now I am comfortable and good with Zoom. So here's what I'm going to do today. This is my plan today. I'm going to share my screen. I will show you what my screen share looks like when it comes to all of the features that I can manage as a non-host to a Zoom meeting. And then I'm going to ask Fred to give me and assign me as the host. And I will show you all of the things that I, as a host, as a Zoom master, can do to show you all of those features within Zoom. First, I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to share is my desktop. Now, Fred, I'd like you to verify for me with a thumbs up or vocally, because my recording won't pick your sound up, but your recording will pick your sound up. Just make sure that you confirm for me first that you're seeing my screen. You should be seeing 4 windows, only my iPad, your phone, your video, and then my video. So you've got 4 screens. And can you also verify for me when I click on the triple ellipses on the top right corner of your video that you see a menu that says I can chat with you or I can pin your video?
Yes, I saw both of them, Ray.
So you can do that, and I can pin your video. So what that means is that even though you're not speaking right now, you are speaker view. So I've got you on speaker view. If I'm going to remove the pin, and I can remove the pin in a couple of different ways. I'm going to put up participants panel here. So I can remove the pin by clicking the remove pin button on the top left corner, or I can use the more button in the participants panel and also remove the pin. What this does is it now puts me back to gallery view. So what pinning a speaker does is it allows you as a meeting participant to watch just one person. So if you're the person recording a presentation and you don't want to spotlight everybody, but you just want to record that one person speaking, if you pin them, then it will stay that way all the time. I'm going to just move my share screen information up to the top here because there's all kinds of stuff to see up here as well. We can talk about that later if we want to, but let's also go through and look at the different menus that I have available to me. So the participants panel, I can invite somebody to the meeting, or I can mute myself. I can chat. So I can chat with anybody in the meeting, or I can chat with just one specific person in the meeting. That is an option that I have with the chat button. If we continue over, I can share my screen, which I'm doing right now. I don't know really what Summary does or AI Companion does. Those are new features that have been put up recently. There's whiteboards, so I can share a whiteboard that we can all annotate. And I have access to reactions, so I can react to different things, clapping hands. I can thumbs up, I can heart stuff. And if you look in the top right corner of my screen, on my share screen or on the video screen on the side of Fred's screen that he's recording, you'll see those reactions showing up in my feed. There's another thing that I can show you right now, which is oftentimes when people have a problem with their camera or their audio, it can be dealt with in here. So always show video dialogue, hide non-video participants. I can hide our two non-video participants. In fact, Fred, if you turn your video off, you will disappear and I'm the only one left. I can show non-video participants or I can hide them. I can also hide my self-view because I don't need to see me. I know what I look like, but I'm going to leave my self-view visible because that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to you. There's also some audio stuff to touch up my video. Note all of these things will slow your computer down. So if you've ever noticed somebody with a video that's lagging and they don't really look clean, that's sometimes because their computer is doing all of this stuff in the background to make them look pretty. And it really doesn't need to. Now, that same menu is available in several places. So Zoom Preferences gives you that menu. And in a little up arrow next to the mute button gives you that same menu. You can look at video, you can look at audio, you can look at share screens, you can look at all of this stuff. Audio, you can choose what you're using for your speakers. I'm using Bluetooth headphones, but I could have my audio come through my stereo or through my monitor. I have an audio interface. I have speakers with my computer. I can pick all of that. The same thing with my microphone. I can use a microphone in my webcam. I have a microphone in front of me that I'm speaking to right now, which is a condenser microphone that makes this very nice sound for voice. I can even use my headphones, my audio as well. And you might notice I've just changed my audio, so I sound a little bit different. I'm going to put this back because I like the speaker a lot better. Now, I think I've gone through just about everything I can show you without having the God mode for the computer. While I'm sharing screen under more, I've got all of these features available to me. But what I'd like to do now is I would like to show you the Zoom Master stuff. So what I'm going to ask first is for Fred, can you assign me as host? And now I'm the host. And I could tell that by looking at my participants panel. It says host is me. That means I have the ability to mute or unmute people. I have ability to turn people's video off. If I look at the more button on Fred's video, I can stop his video. I can chat with him. I can pin. But this is the other important thing. I can spotlight. So spotlighting is similar to pinning, except for it is spotlighting for everybody. So now I'm speaking to everybody because I've spotlighted myself. I can add spotlight to Fred as well. So hi, Fred. This is what I record when it's a two-person interview between the two of us. So we have two people spotlighted. And now I want to show another interesting thing because I have a Mac computer, so this is full screen mode for me. I can show a gallery view of everybody who's in the meeting. This is also available to you. Is this gallery view? If you're sharing slides or something like that, and you have a little pop-up window, you'll have a little floating window available to you that you can show, okay, we've got all of the gallery view, and you can pay attention to everybody that you're talking to, even while you're looking and reading through your screen. I'm going to make this small again, and I'm going to show you how to remove spotlight and remove spotlight again. It will switch me back to gallery view. I can switch to speaker view and it will be just me. But if Fred ends up speaking at some point, which you can do, Fred, then you'll see how the audio will automatically draw over to the next person who's speaking, even if you're unmuted. I'm going to switch back to gallery view again. And let's see what other things I can show you within here. So going back to the participants panel, I can make the participants panel bigger to show everything that we're looking at. Let's go with more. So you only had, when you were a participant in the meeting, you only had two options available to you in that third button. Now I have many more. These are the options that I have in the participants menu as a Zoom master. So I can allow people to unmute themselves, or I can not allow people to unmute themselves. And Fred, if you try to unmute yourself, you will find you are interrupted in that time. You can also prevent people from renaming themselves or starting their video. You can tell people to hide profile pictures, and you might want that in a Toastmasters contest when you have judges coming in and you're going to be renaming themselves as Judge 1, Judge 2, Judge 3, and you don't want any profile pictures that they might have in Zoom to be visible, to be able to identify the judges. You can ask all to unmute. You can play the join and leave sound. So if you have somebody coming into the room, it's going to give a little bit of a bing when somebody comes in. You don't want to interrupt. So you might turn that off. And you can enable the waiting room or turn it off. Now, if you disable the waiting room, then people can come into your meeting at any moment. But if there's a speech going on, you might want to turn the waiting room on. And what that does is me as the Zoom host, as the person with all of the controls, or if I assign Fred as a co-host, that allows all of our host and co-host to have all of the security availability for the meeting, which means also Fred can spotlight, Fred can add spotlight. Our co-hosts can do all of the things that the hosts can do without having to be the host person. There's only one thing that the host can do that the co-hosts can't do, and that's running polls, which we can't really use here because I don't have access to the back end of the system to do that. Another thing, well, and then you have the security. Security is probably the most important thing that you deal with when you're the Zoom host. And that's locking the meeting, hiding profile pictures, a lot of the same things that are coming up in the participants menu, in the more menu for participants. But this also allows people to share their screens, rename themselves, or whatever. Now, let's talk about renaming yourselves. How do you do that? Renaming yourself is, again, just like spotlighting. It's in that same menu. So if I want to rename the iPad, you can do it that way. Or you can also rename from the ellipses in the top right corner of anybody's video. The security menu also allows you to allow people to record or not record. Well, I'm going to click on the 3 buttons again for, I'm going to things that I knew, that I know. When you take co-host away from somebody and you don't allow other people to have permission to do the recording, it stops their recording. So all of that recording will process when you leave the meeting. But there's a 30-second gap in between. You've got 2 video files. So making host, making co-host, you can rename, spotlight, pin, allow people to multi-pin, put in the waiting room, remove or report. These are all security things that we can do. Now, I'm going to ask Fred to give me some direction on this because I have a lot of things that I feel like I can show, but I want some direction on that.
Okay. So you mentioned making someone a host and a co-host. You said something earlier about, in previous conversations, about claiming the host, which seems to be a little bit differently. So how do you claim the host and exactly what is it?
Hey, claiming the host is a thing that you do, and I can share you the link to the video that I produced for that for District 96 for how to claim the host. But when you join the meeting and somebody is not already the host by default by being the account manager or the account holder, what you do is you log in and you open the participants panel, and this button here that says more, when you log in, it will say claim host. What it does is you enter in the host key, which you get from the Zoom account holder. And that host key will tell you, will give you all of the security features of a host. That is to turn on waiting rooms. That is to run breakout rooms. That is to mute and unmute people. And the reason you would want to claim host is because if your Zoom link ever gets picked up by somebody else, then who doesn't need to be or isn't supposed to be in the meeting, then you want the ability to remove them or put them in the waiting room or mute them or stop somebody from sharing screen. Because talking about Zoom bombing, which is a thing that's happened quite a bit, especially in the first couple of years, or first couple of months after COVID started, what happens is you have people who join a meeting that they get a Zoom link to, and then they share a bunch of really unpleasant stuff to everybody that's in the room. So you want somebody that has the control to be able to basically control somebody in the room who doesn't want to be controlled. That is what the host is supposed to be able to do. They shouldn't have to do it all the time, but when they need to do it, they need to be able to do it.
Okay, and another question about the host. My home club in Florida, we use someone's Zoom account, just like we use yours for Podmasters. And a lot of times she can't make the meeting, but she'll log in and then let one of us be the host. But she's unable to make anyone a co-host. Is that the type of account that she has? Because she said it's either host or nothing.
Are her meetings restricted to being 45 minutes? Is there
No.
a time limit on their meeting? Then she should be able to make somebody a co-host or make somebody a host.
Mm-hmm.
I have a pro account, which is a paid account that allows me to have long meetings beyond whatever the maximum is for a free account. And that gives me that feature. If she has that feature, if she is the same level of account ownership as I do, then she is able to do that. Is she the host when she logs in?
Yes.
Then she should be able to assign somebody as the host in the same way that I'm showing it assigned as host by just clicking on the participants panel and making them a co-host.
That's what I
That's simple.
Yeah, that's
That's
what I
simple.
Mhm.
It is that simple. And if they can't do that, then they're either not logged in, or the other possibility is I haven't looked into the back end menu from Zoom to confirm if it's something that has to be enabled, but I don't think it is because I don't recall ever having enabled it. But if they are the host when they come in, they should be able to assign co-hosts.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like you, like possibly something on the back end that maybe she didn't enable, possibly. Because if she's got a pro account, she's got to be able to make people co-host,
Yeah.
and not just one or the other.
Now, what's another thing that you'd like to see how I a secret of Zoom that I haven't uncovered? This pretty well covers all of the.
Tell you a secret. I haven't seen it a whole lot, Ray, but show us how to do a poll in Zoom.
Let's see if I've got that feature in here. So, live notes, whiteboards, apps, collaboration options. Polls are not something I'm super good at. And that is one thing that has to be enabled and set up on the account side. So you
Okay.
need to log in at zoom.us for the meeting and set the poll up on that on the meeting itself.
Gotcha. Okay. So the other question I have is you mentioned pinning and spotlighting are similar. So what's the difference in the two? And when should you use one or the other?
Let me do it this way. So I'm going to spotlight myself for everybody. And right now, this everybody in this room, so we have an iPad, an iPhone, and another computer that are in this Zoom space. They are all spotlighted. And as the Zoom host, I have control to be able to control your view. So your speaker view is now 2 people. So I am spotlighted, and I have added spotlight to you, Fred, as the second spotlight, and everybody else in the room is only able to see you and I. That's it. So when they switch to speaker view, this is all you can see. The difference is if I remove your spotlight and I remove my spotlight, now you should be gallery view. Now, if I pin, you should still be gallery view. Whereas I now have you as a pin speaker. So the difference between between pinning a speaker and spotlighting a speaker is one is a choice that you, the user in the gallery, make for what you can see. Spotlighting is a choice that I and you as a co-host make as a production. Think about it like a camera. I'm telling you what we're shooting the camera at by spotlighting the camera, by spotlighting your view. You are showing what you are looking at by pinning somebody. And that doesn't affect anybody else. Spotlighting affects everybody. Pinning only affects your view. Doesn't affect anybody else. So
Okay.
one is interrupting everybody else's meeting. One is only controlling your own.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I needed to know. So if you want to stop sharing your screen, I have a troubleshooting question for you. And let's see if I can share my screen and it'll come up. Do you see that picture, Ray?
Yes, I do.
You see all the dots on the screen. That's on Zoom. Every time we go in Zoom in the room that we use, and we've used 2 different rooms. And this is what comes up every time. And someone said it's a Zoom setting.
Ah, Okay. I have never seen this before. However, tell me what this room is. Is this a hybrid meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a hybrid meeting. You have a camera that is open um, in Zoom that is running the room, and this is the camera that's in the live meeting, correct?
It's the main one connected to the primary computer that we connect on that's hooked up to the projector and the screen.
All right. So
So this is what you're seeing on the big screen. This is what you're seeing on the screen.
this is what I'm seeing on the screen. So
Mhm.
what are we seeing on the what are we seeing on the or no, that's what we're seeing on the screen. What do you see on the computer?
On the computer, it would be basically this is a picture of the screen, the Zoom screen on the
Yeah.
primary computer.
Oh, that's a picture of the Zoom screen on the primary
Right.
computer.
Now
Okay.
on my tablet that's in front of the lectern, you don't see it.
You don't see that on the tablet on the lectern. This is what you see on the computer screen itself. What
Correct.
does what do the four people that are in Zoom as a part of the meeting see? Do they see the dots and the lines or no?
Usually, as you can tell, no. It's usually when you get on speaker view where you can see it. In gallery view, it looks pretty much how you see it, like this. It's pretty much when you're in speaker view, and that's how it comes up on the screen, which is how we see it on the primary computer screen.
Does everybody else see it the same way?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a couple of places I can show you that you might want to look at to experiment
Okay.
with.
You want me to
First
stop
off, what
sharing?
yeah, you stop sharing and I'm going to share again. So I'm going to share screen again. Now, I'm going to go up to video settings. First question is, what kind of camera is this?
What kind of
What kind of camera
you're
are you using?
using a webcam that the school provides, which you saw next to the computer screen. It's just a
Yeah.
webcam that's mounted on a tabletop tripod.
So camera quality is an important thing. And what I was talking about before when I was talking about video settings, there is there are several things that you can do that will impact your view. And I'm going to block myself out with a window here. So if you click on the right side where the up arrow button is and where all the choosing virtual backgrounds and choosing avatar and all of that stuff is, what you want to do is video settings, which is this menu here. And you want to ask yourself, what is the ratio? If you want to leave it as original ratio, or it expands the ratio and zooms in a little bit. If it's HD, which can slow stuff down, is the mirror video mirrored? Now, this is the other place that might be a factor, touching up my appearance, making it nicer, making it less nicer, or adjusting for low light. So there are a number of automated settings in Zoom video that are will affect the output of the camera. And if you're dealing with a good webcam, like I've got a Logitech 925 E, which is a decent webcam that has its own microphone and everything built into it. It has a focal length that is good for that kind of meeting. If it is a lower quality webcam, those might be artifacts that come from the quality of the webcam. So that's a question that I would have for you is it a problem specifically with the webcam? And does the same thing happen if you plug a different webcam in?
We haven't tried a different webcam because we've used the schools, but we've used two different rooms. They're right next to each other, same problem.
Yeah. So the only thing you haven't clarified for, or you haven't tested for, is the camera then. You're using the same camera in different rooms. That's not going to make any difference, because if the camera's the problem, it's going to be the same problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't bring the other camera in the room. It's already attached to the primary computer. But like I said, it's done the same thing in both rooms.
Yeah.
But
So
I
you're
guess
using,
it's because they have the same camera, right, in the rooms. So it could
yeah,
be that particular camera or some settings maybe in that camera.
yeah. I would definitely suggest testing it with a different webcam or the higher quality webcam to see if the same problem exists. Because I don't think if it's not a Zoom AI problem, if it's not a Zoom video processing issue, then it's probably a camera quality issue. And it's probably a feature of the camera's not picking up enough light and it's too far away from what you're showing. So it's really not the right camera for the application. And that's
Yeah,
really
well,
the next question
I
to
have an
ask.
extra webcam that is not the one on my computer now. I
Yeah,
can bring that, considering I can get to where it feeds through, and we can test it that way.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen people even use
DSLRs.
DSLR cameras with a video module, HDMI video module plugged into the computer, and that works really well too. But those are higher level compute cameras than even I play with.
Yeah, one of my friends did it. He's a photographer, and he was experimenting, and he put his Canon camera just to practice a video call, and
Mhm.
this is the camera I'm going to use from now on.
Yeah,
Because most cameras on computers aren't that great. That's why you usually have to buy an external one of some sort, be it a DSLR or an external webcam.
yeah. Well, a lot of the YouTube channels I follow, the creators use DSLR cameras plugged into their microphones and everything. Like they'll actually set it up right up next to their computer so that it is basically pointing at them right through their ring light, whatever it is. Speaking of ring lights, I have a ring light that I use to make sure that my lighting is good, that I can be seen on camera fairly clearly,
Mhm.
uh, with the virtual backgrounds and everything. What's the
Yeah.
next question?
The next question is, I'm stumped now. I had it on the back of my mind, and I I forgot. It'll come to me, but you're talking about lighting. For some reason, this just happened tonight. Usually, I don't get a glare in my glasses, and somehow this corner light is reflecting in the corner of my glasses, and that I usually don't. That usually does not happen. That's why you saw me take my glasses off. You saw me take my glasses off earlier, and gosh, you stumped me, right? But let's go to podcasting. You do podcasting, as do a lot of other people. Is there something people should know, or maybe a difference in the equipment you need on Zoom, having a meeting or doing a podcast?
Um, yes and no. The podcast that I'm running right now is an interview podcast, which is run in Zoom. It's for District 7, and we've got 4 episodes up right now, and the fifth one that's going to be published tomorrow, all things considered. I have just an external webcam with decent pickup, and I can talk down the lens. I have an external lighting source that gives me lighting backup. I picked up a microphone, which is a Tech Zone audio condenser microphone with and a audio interface that plugs into my computer. This is a cheap studio setup and is kind of my minimum entry point for what I could do for a podcast. I'm also very picky. Realistically, you could do a podcast with just a laptop and a microphone, or a laptop with a built-in camera and a microphone built into the laptop, and you could do it that way. It really depends what your goals are. The minimum entry point for running a podcast is having something to talk about and a place to talk to. or a person to talk to have a conversation. After that, you want to be publishing it to a streaming service, be it YouTube or Spotify or something that can publish it out and then share it out.
Well, something I like, I remembered my question, but to finish this point is I like what you do after the podcast when you edit, because no one has, well, I won't say no one, but the way the transitions go on there, it's not your typical Zoom layout. So I like how you edit it to where, I mean, unless you had a virtual background, would be pretty much how the only way someone would know. But as far as the transition process, if I didn't know better, I wouldn't think it was on Zoom.
That's because I hate the way Zoom video looks when it's all done. Just because this is bothering me now, I'm going to hide all of the non-video participants on my screen because I don't need to see everybody else here. The whole point of me having non-video participants on screen is because another important thing to bring up, you can't spotlight somebody when there's only two people in the room. You can pin them, but you can't spotlight anybody because who else are you controlling it for? So sometimes I'll actually have an extra computer in the room just because I want to run spotlighting.
Well, speaking of extra computer, that was a question I couldn't remember earlier. When I do PowerPoint a lot, and I used to have two screens at one time, but the problem I ran into on Zoom, unless it was a setting I didn't have set up right, I could not get the slides to advance. Once I went back to one screen, I could. However, the problem I'm running into is with one screen, and I go to screen share, is people see the presentation mode for a couple of seconds where I don't have it in the ready position, where if I had two screens according to you, I could go right to that primary slide. So explain to us two screens and the benefit of using it on Zoom and how you would use it using PowerPoint.
All right. I'm doing something that I never do right now. Right now, you should be able to hear an echo because I have connected my iPad to the audio. Now I'm going to disconnect it from the audio because this annoys me a lot. So disconnect audio. That no longer annoys me, but I'll show you how to do that. So you log in, you have your audio set up to be able to go through one computer. One computer is your video, it is your microphone, it is your speakers. That is everything that you're talking to. And you want to do a second computer so that you can share screen. Then that is when you go here and leave computer audio. That is it. Leave computer audio or disconnect audio. These are the only things that you have to do. Not in audio settings. It is just that second computer logs in, is a full participant of the meeting, but it leaves computer audio. So there's no audio coming out of that computer, and there's no audio being picked up from that computer. It's not about mute. It is about connection to audio. Because even with my iPad connected sitting right next to me, there is a lag with the audio that is going into my microphone before it comes back all the way around to my iPad. And it creates that echo, that feedback. So that's an important thing to remember.
Well,
Question,
what if you're just using an external monitor and not a second computer?
Using an external monitor?
Like it's just a second monitor, not a computer, but like you have a laptop in your primary screen and then a monitor as the secondary.
I have, it's going to be different for me than it is for you because I assume you're a Windows person and I don't have a second monitor anymore. I used to have two monitors. So one computer set up to a laptop with a secondary monitor connected in. And the way I do it is in Apple. What I do is I have multiple desktops. So I have my desktop and then my full screen desktop, number one. I have full screen desktop, number two, and I have desktop, like the regular desktop, number three. And these are things that I have available to me as a Mac user. I don't think that you can, and I can do that when I have two screens. I can have one full screen as slides and a second full screen as Zoom. And all I'm doing is sharing my desktop. And I can decide which desktop I'm going to share of those two screens. I don't know how it works in Windows because I'm not a Windows person.
Okay. That's not a problem. So we're going to wrap it up here, Ray. Do you have any words of wisdom or final words of advice to give our viewing audience out there on maybe some other Zoom secrets or some things they should try that maybe they were afraid to try before we wrap up?
Maybe I'll stop sharing. Zoom is frustrating. It is terribly frustrating all the time. You will run into links that don't work. You will run into meeting IDs and passwords that don't work. You will run into issues with anytime you add anything new to your Zoom operation. It is probably not going to work the way you think it is the first or the second or even the third time you do it. And that's okay, because the third or the fourth or the fifth time, it's going to be better. And the sixth time and the seventh time, it's going to be better. And the eighth time and the ninth time and the 10th time is going to be even better still. And eventually, you're going to be the one that is being asked to be at a PRM forum to show all of the things that you've learned about Zoom, 10 or 15 or 20 times later, or in my case, 3 years later, after learning how to use this system basically by necessity. It's really powerful. And it will frustrate you. It has the ability to be frustrating, and don't let that discourage you.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. I was going to say, for what I use at home, I use WebEx at home because it was very inexpensive. I got a good deal during the pandemic. So that's why I use it, because I don't host a whole lot of meetings in Toastmasters or outside of Toastmasters. I usually an attendee. So I usually just use, and there's nothing wrong with either platform. It's just personal preference. Like I said, I did it because I saved a ton of money. And one of the clubs that I'm helping charter, about 45 minutes from me, they use Teams. So they use it for their hybrid meeting. So nothing says we have to use Zoom. It's just what we got accustomed.
Yep.
It's just what we got accustomed to. And when I help people with other hybrid meetings, I pretty much only know Zoom for the hybrid part of it. And one thing I noticed is, like, when you rename yourself in these other platforms, you can't do it within the meeting. You have to do it before you go into the meeting. So Zoom has its quirks, but I think it has more advantages than a lot of the others, just from me trying some of the others. So
yeah,
there's another investment.
There's another important thing to remember when it comes to Zoom. So when it comes to sharing screen, and I'm going to share screen again really quickly because there's one thing I didn't share, and it's probably something that comes up quite frequently. So when you share screen, say you're sharing a video or a YouTube video, you need to remember to always share sound and optimize for a video clip. And actually, if you want, I can send you the link for the video that I put together for how to claim the host. And you can, and Phyllis can add it into the system if she wants to, or into this video if she wants to as well.
Now, I'll tell you a problem I ran into. I was trying to pull up a YouTube video. I was doing a presentation on basic video fundamentals, basically with your phone. and I enabled both. I enabled share sound and the optimize for video clip, and I kept getting this weird error next to stop to screen share, and no one could see the presentation. I mean, no one could see the video, even though I enabled screen share. Once I unchecked the optimize for video clip, but kept the share sound, it worked. So I don't know if that was on my end or what, but I had to try like several times to figure out. I just started playing around. I had to uncheck the optimized video clip. I don't know if it has to be a video built into your computer or what, but I could not get it to work right.
I don't know. I almost wonder if it is maybe due to the website that you were sharing it from, or yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't run into that as an
It
issue
was
before.
YouTube. It was YouTube. I was sharing it from.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. There's also issues with issues that you can go into that should be looked into. Apple likes really, really strict privacy, so I have to tell it the things that Zoom is allowed to do. So I have to go into the system settings and tell Apple that yes, Zoom is allowed to share my screen. Yes, Zoom is allowed to share my microphone. Yes, Zoom is allowed to record my stuff. Yes, Zoom is allowed to do all of these things. And there's a lot of programs like that. And even in Windows 11 and Windows 10 and Windows 11, I know a lot of that privacy is now getting built into the back end of the operating system as well. So there might be something like that from a system that is causing issues as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for educating us on Zoom. And before we wrap up, I'm going to do my foreshadowing for my next guest. So everybody, please stay tuned in 2 weeks on November 24th, where District 101 Director Abhijit Joshi will be telling us about innovative PR in the digital age. So if you're interested in that, please register when you see my ad for my next PRM Forum. I'm Fred Bergeron, the District 7 Public Relations Manager. And this is Ray Miller. We are signing off. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.